start with the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we, roll call. Kurt?
Here.
Steve?
Here.
George?
Here.
Wes?
Here.
Kirk?
Here.
John? Jake?
Here.
And Eric?
Did anybody
So we need to,
sign in?
yeah, anybody sign?
Okay.
Sheets in the back here.
Usually
Thank you.
we switch off with the alternate, voting alternate. So last time it was,
I think everybody's here, right?
yeah. Oh, so we don't have to switch off,
Yeah,
correct? That's right. Sorry. So used to doing that. So the meeting guidelines we usually go over, but everybody knows those, I think. Unless anybody would like me to repeat those. We're good. Approval of the minutes from the March 11th meeting.
This is what it's saying.
So one of the things in the meeting minutes that I think is important to bring up, everybody is familiar with it, is the reason that, just want to make sure everybody's clear on the reason why a special use permit was required for that Gillette Road property that we had a public hearing on last time. And we'll get into that again, but the reasons are outlined in the meeting minutes, so.
I move we accept the minutes.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Nobody opposed. So we'll move into the public hearing for the property at 14380 Gillette Road. And this is a continuation of a public hearing that we had back in March. And back in March, we had some residents that lived in the vicinity of the Gillette Road site that were concerned about drainage, particularly to the north, that because there's a culvert pipe on the property that is flowing, the water flows to the south. So after that, we decided to table the public hearing because of the drainage issue that was a concern of the neighbors, and decided to have Soil and Water investigate the drainage in the area to see which way it flows and try to come up with a remedy on how the drainage issue could be corrected so that the applicant can build the building without being concerned about surface drainage. So there's a couple of letters that were sent that I think everybody got a copy of, that addressed the drainage issues on the site. One of them was a letter from Soil and Water to the Grahams, who live adjacent to the property, and then the other one was addressed to the owner from Soil and Water. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I understand it, Soil and Water is suggesting that you two come up with a solution and rectify the drainage and the surface drainage to go furthest to the south on the Graham's property. And you create a swale on the east side of your property. Their recommendation was that you create a swale on the east side of your property to have surface drainage from the cross culvert flow to the south. So that would take some coordination between the both of you to get that done. Is that something you've discussed or no?
I have not.
We haven't, but I talked to Dragon Farms today. I was hoping Steve would be here tonight. And he indicated an interest, and he hasn't shown up. But we don't want any more water to the south, that's for darn sure.
Okay. They indicate in the letter that the drainage naturally flows to the southwest, I think.
Once you get over the hump, my property is fairly high adjacent to John.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I'm looking for suggestions, I guess. Any ideas on how we can satisfy the need to, or the, you know, the desire to add on to the building and satisfy the drainage at the same time?
What did Steve have to say about it? Was he,
Well, he's concerned. Right now, we have a lot of standing water on our property. We, as I said, don't want any more, that's for damn sure.
did he have any ideas or,
No, and if the Soil and Water said we could tile that field.
yeah,
Sorry, that's a big expense and I'm not in the mood to do it.
Did he say anything about opening up that swell or clearing that?
No, he didn't say
That
that.
wouldn't maybe,
No.
if they got the equipment to do that, it wouldn't be as big an expense.
Is this field worked at all?
Sure is.
Who
Every
works?
year.
Who works it?
Dragon Farms.
They're not interested in draining the field?
Well, in a good year, the water doesn't stand there. It's an on-again, off-again situation.
Water's gotta go somewhere.
It evaporates.
Oh, you just evaporate.
In a dry year, they're all set.
Is there any way around, like for ditching, to get around that, to get it southwest? You said the flow goes southwest. Maybe ditching?
They've
to
done a
get
little
something?
bit, Dragon Farms has, to get the water to my main driveway. The first year I owned the property, I bought drainage pipe at Keeler's. The old pipe had deteriorated, so I had two places in the main driveway which directs water to the southwest. And another one a little bit further west that I replaced. But through the years, the hedgerow was slightly elevated and everything's different.
Basically, I think if the applicant here, he's kind of boxed in, as long as he leaves a ditch along the east side of his property, it's really not gonna change the water going to your property, because like you say, you already have a high spot between, that the water can't flow over, that's trapping it in his property.
Right.
The guy that was complaining last week, or brought up the issue, or last month, he was saying the water couldn't get through the culvert, but really what's holding it back is, it's not his property holding it back presently, it's your property where it's higher, so it can't get over that hump and down the hill.
Directly adjacent to John, that's right, we're high.
So-
Or Joe, I mean, yes.
So
Yeah.
I think that as long as Joe leaves a ditch on the east side of his property, he's not aggravating the problem. He's not solving it, but he's not aggravating it anymore. That's just my point of view.
Well, the concern is by adding the building and elevating the soil there, that it was gonna restrict, but you don't think
As
not
long
going
as he
over
leaves a
Oh,
ditch
leave a
along
ditch.
the east side, it won't restrict it. It can run around and go down the ditch, but it still won't have anywhere to go because his field is slightly higher presently, I believe.
So
That's
in
the
other
way I
words,
understand
leave
it.
well enough alone, right?
Well,
just
there is
don't-
some issues, I mean, and they could be solved, but nothing gets solved for free, you're correct
That's
about
correct.
that.
The only problem with putting a ditch on that east side is that moors are next door there, and that's always been, that back part has always been a low, wet spot for them. As I drive by all the time, I'm noticing that. So I don't know, what is that gonna do? The water's gonna sit there and hopefully evaporate, but where is it gonna go? Is it gonna just be sitting and going into his part, or?
Well, there's water standing there presently, and there will still be water standing there. I mean,
It's naturally low right there.
he's got a low spot, you got a high spot.
Trying to
that's
solve
holding it
that.
back, and-
Yeah.
I'm gonna raise the land up and I'm gonna leave the ditch in it.
Water over even more.
Making the pond smaller is what you're doing.
Correct.
You essentially have a drainage pond.
It's definitely a pond, there's no doubt about that. About 3/4 of that, to that side, you can't even walk in there. Well, even with equipment, you'd be afraid it's stuck in there, even with a tractor vehicle. And that's gonna be about another, I guarantee you, 2 months before you can even get in there. That's how wet it is.
Well, your concern is that we're gonna, by doing this, the surface drainage is gonna go east to the neighbor.
Yeah.
It's gonna make it worse. Making the pond smaller by,
Yeah, but the water has to go somewhere, so it's gonna,
push over.
yeah, and he's very low in that back corner.
But if I'm building the building or not, I'm still gonna raise it.
I understand, but the water is our problem, that's what
I
we're trying to
understand that.
figure what to do.
What if you built, what if you put a berm on along the property, east property line to try to keep the surface water off the neighbor? Is that a possible solution?
Maybe, but where's the neighbor's water? Is that coming towards them already, and then that will trap that water? It needs to go over the hill.
Yeah.
The problem too is, I mean, you got trees right there and stuff like that too, so obviously I gotta stay on my side of the, even though the trees, I mean, all that stuff is right there on my side of the property, but the thing is that I have to stay obviously on my side unless I wanna rip all the trees out, which I wasn't planning on. And then, go, I got the ditch right on this side of on my side of the trees. So,
It would really improve your property quite a bit if this plan was followed. Is there any possibility of I don't know if this is my place, but a cost sharing?
yeah, what's the cost of it though,
You mean you get the work done in the field
Right,
to the south?
right.
I mean, the simplest solution would be to, what they're suggesting here, I think, is to clean the ditch in the field. Not necessarily requiring tiling, but clean the ditch in the field so that, and in the hedgerow, right?
But it does drain all right. Most of the property does, except for 2 areas in that big field that are lower and the water sits there.
So if there was a drainage for both him and for you off to the southwest, would that also help your field there?
Well, having his water come on to me, we're just talking more water.
No, it won't come on to you because it'll be ditched, and his water will go off southwest.
Trying to get it to the woods.
Try to
Right,
get it
trying
to
to
the
get it
woods.
into behind
Well,
the
again,
house area.
how's it gonna set with Dragon Farms? We have to work those fields.
I was trying to think of ditching it along the hedgerow, or the headlands maybe to get it off. I don't know, I'd have to go back and see what it looked like. I didn't look that far back, but, so that's not in the middle of the field, but, yeah, I don't know. To me, ditching makes sense to get the water off
It's the cheapest.
get it flowing,
It's
yes.
the cheapest solution.
Yeah.
But as I said, we're naturally quite a bit higher than he is. You're talking quite a ditching effort to get the water off.
What they suggest is that they say that the water in your field runs to the south
Yes.
to the ditch located back in the woods. There's an old existing swale that runs through this area, but over time it's filled in. Some areas are now restricting water flow. There are several high spots in your field, mainly where the swale crosses the hedgerows, but also in a few other sections in the field.
But as I said earlier, if it's a dry spring, early summer, water is not a problem. It disappears.
For your fields, right?
Yes.
What, we're still trying to think what we can do to help him too, for his business. You know, we're trying to help both of you here, but it's too bad Steve isn't here that we could
Yeah.
talk with him.
Yeah, it's kind of too bad there isn't a ditch on the other side, instead of actually having a culvert and then ditching it back to 98 and then having it go across. Because there's a ditch right there anyways,
Right.
you know, ditching his instead of having it come across, ditch it across and then, you know, over to 98 where there's already a ditch anyways.
No, I think Kirk's got the right idea myself to resolve it.
Which one was that?
The swale on the east side, like they suggest here.
We're not in any position to dictate to people to do things. All we do is suggest, but
Right.
we're here to approve a special use permit.
Right, that hopefully won't have an impact on any of the surrounding properties.
Right?
So let me ask this. If, and going by what he made a comment, that he wasn't gonna put a building up, but he was gonna raise that area. He can do that without any permits, right? He could make a fill there and fill it in, yes.
Yeah, we don't have a full
So if
permit,
he,
but-
so in essence, he was making a building foundation. We don't have any say in that.
Right,
So at that point, though, he's got to work with the neighbors. That all becomes a neighbor issue of, you know, where the water's going. And we're kind of out of it that way. Maybe you can get his foundation in first. I don't know.
south of, try to resolve the fill and the drainage first before the building. What's your time frame for the building that you're,
Well, as I was discussing with you before the meeting, I'm almost to the point now where honestly, I'm gonna probably halt the building for a little bit. And the reason for that is because, like I said, I really don't wanna go through a special use permit anymore, I'm just gonna store my equipment there. I got another place where I can work in it, which is right in town, so I just take my pieces down there, work on it there. And, my trailers are all legally on the road, so at that point in time, there shouldn't be an issue with that, and, that's it.
Shelley's not here.
So you're saying you're withdrawing your application?
That's what I was saying, yes. Because, I talked to a lawyer that I have, and, he basically told me, he goes, for what you're doing, you don't need it. You're working on your own equipment, you're storing your own equipment, and, as long as you don't run a business out of it, he goes, there's nothing that you should need a special use permit for. Which I'm technically not, because, again, I'm just storing my stuff there, and that's it. So there's no reason why I shouldn't need a special use permit.
Now, you've had a special use permit there, right?
Hmm?
You've had one there.
No,
You've never had it?
never needed it.
Oh, I thought this was a renewal or an
No.
addition. No?
Nope.
No, this is brand new special use permit. And then we were talking about the reasons for why Shelley was requiring a special use permit. If I can find it, here it is.
Well, she was thinking that I had customers coming there, and I was doing all kinds of work out of it for the public and stuff like that, and it's actually all my own equipment and all my own stuff that I'm working on, so, you know, it's no different than anybody working on their own vehicle, you know, at the house or anything else. It's their own equipment, there should be nothing against them. And that's all I'm doing is working on my own equipment and storing my equipment, which is legally on the road. Every single one of my trailers is on the road. Matter of fact, down the road all the way to 2027, because they're all registered to me. So for the next 8 years, they gotta be on the road. Legally.
So what Shelley wrote in his application last month, that's, when it came, and the reason that the special use permit is in here, it says the town of Berry zoning regulations uses special use permits to control the impact of certain uses upon areas where they will be incompatible unless conditioned in a manner suitable to a particular location. Special use permits bring needed flexibility and individuality to otherwise rigid controls of zoning regulations. Special use is a use which is specifically permitted in a given district, or when conditioning criteria enumerated in the town zoning regulations are met. All such uses are declared to possess characteristics of such unique and special forms that each specific use shall be considered as individual. In approving an application, the planning board may impose any modifications or conditions that deems necessary to conform to the goals, objectives in the town of Berry's comprehensive plan as its principles of land use development and protect the health, safety, and general welfare of the public. A special use permit shall authorize only one particular use. The permit shall expire if the use ceases for more than 1 year for any reason. Code enforcement officer shall inspect the premises, shall be authorized and approved with a special use permit on an annual basis. The purpose of the inspection is to determine the use is being operated consistent with the terms and conditions established by the planning board in approving the permit. So it sounds to me like she took our zoning and interpreted it, that you had a use there that's unique, and that's why she was requiring a special use permit.
Well, it's no different than a farmer storing his equipment in a barn or any of that stuff. I mean, it's just basically what I'm doing is storing my equipment there. Working on my own vehicle or something like that, you know, I mean, there's nothing against, in the zoning that you can't work on your own equipment. That's basically what I'm doing.
So was the application, the reason she did it because he's expanding it? Because I was in the same assumption that he was already had a special use permit, like I didn't, and he was just building on. So now the question that we're all sitting here,
Well,
like she says, it's
basically-
not conforming. If you want to build a barn
Yeah,
on a parcel that's not big enough to be a building lot, are we fine with that? Really? Because that's what it comes down to, or is that a special use to do that? Because it's not a big enough lot for a house.
Well,
He's
basically,
not a farmer.
what her idea behind it was is that she thinks I'm running a full-blown business out of the property. And that's what I'm supposed to need a special use permit. Which technically I'm not, and I'm not even storing all my equipment there anyways. And I've worked on a lot of my equipment, even, like I said, at my house, or even I got 6 storage units right now on 227 East Ave that are full, 16 by 48 full. So that's why I'm working on a lot of the stuff at my house. So, I mean, for me to store equipment there, there's nothing in the, in the code that says you can't work on your own equipment.
But
It's not like I'm bringing somebody else's equipment to my building where I refurbish or work on it and then, turn around and charge them for it.
But
I don't do that.
is it true that it's a non-conforming lot? It's not, it doesn't conform to the minimum lot size? Town has a minimum lot size.
Okay.
It doesn't conform to that? Is that what you're saying?
I think it does.
200 by 217,
Yeah, it's big enough, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that's what you meant.
Well, no, that came up, there was, maybe it's because of the proximity, there can be a resident on the property. Because she did bring that up. That's why I was just thinking, I'm with you, I'm trying to figure out
Why she,
why,
There's probably
why
not
the
enough room to
justification
Put a
is.
house and the barn on that
Correct.
lot.
He's
No,
not
but-
trying to build a house.
No, I know.
Correct.
So it's 200 by 217, which is a normal lot size, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what he's building on it, it's a lot. So I don't know why she's,
It's too bad she's not here.
yeah.
Like I said again, I mean, she thought I was running a full-fledged business on it, which I'm not. Again, all my stuff is in there for storage, that's where I store my equipment. And when it comes to the trailers, again, like I said, I'm probably gonna end up selling the majority of them off anyways, because I'm done with my whole deal with Sears. So most of my trailers are gonna go by anyways. And then all the rest of them, they're legally on the road, so. Which all of them are actually.
So if you don't build, okay, you said you've withdrawn that, are you
Mhm.
still gonna clean up that whole area?
Yes, no, that's all gonna happen.
Yeah, I know it's wet, I know.
No, I'm actually, honestly, here's my thing, if I don't end up building, what I'm gonna end up doing is, I'm gonna pull that shed that I got there, which Shelley gave me a building, permit for anyways. I'm gonna pull that out, it's gonna get concreted right there. I'm gonna push it back in the same spot again. I'm gonna end up putting the fence across it, and I'm gonna end up parking my trailers in there. I'm gonna continue the driveway up from the concrete driveway I have. I'm gonna continue it over, tying into it so I can put my trailers in there. And I'm gonna end up fencing that in, and everything in the front's gonna end up green grass.
Good.
So that's my ultimate game plan for this year. So if I don't end up building, I'm gonna end up doing that, and I'm gonna put a 6-foot fence, like I said, around it, and you know, put everything.
So we don't
behind it.
see any of that, huh?
You know, trust me, I mean, I wanna clean it up as just as much as the next guy. Like I said, I was in the process of building this whole thing, and a year and a half ago, like I said, the whole thing with Sears came up. You know, I hate to say it, but it was an opportunity of a lifetime, and there was no way I was gonna walk away from it, so the building kinda took a back burner. And I got a lot of plans still for the building, so, you know.
You
It's
started out good with it, I mean, you concreted everything,
Oh,
you
it's-
did great,
it's-
but then you
I
started
put a
just
lot of money in
kind
that
of
building, trust
throwing
me, so that's what I'm
things all over.
saying. I'm not stopping yet. There's a lot of things I wanna do, it's just that, again, the whole time ordeal, and I only have so much time to have. And like I said, again, you know, a year and a half, I did all the Sears stores, matter of fact, just to put it in perspective, I did 22 Sears stores where I literally bought every piece of equipment out of the automotive center. On 22 of them. I mean, I went to Bronx, New Jersey, Philly, Pittsburgh, all over the place. And I did a total of 22 of them. So, I mean, as you can see probably that, you know, that took a lot of time.
Okay.
So now I'm back, now Sears is done with, like I said, and now it's time to concentrate back on the building and get everything else back in, you know,
Do you,
shape.
if you're withdrawing your request for a special use permit tonight, are you still gonna seek a building permit at this time, or no?
I like to put it on hold for the time being.
Okay,
Please.
okay.
I'd like to revisit that in about, let's say, about a month.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, then we could review with Shelley at the next meeting, her reasons for
Yeah.
requiring a special use permit
Okay.
for your property.
Well, like I said, I know what her reason was, that's what she gave me, is that she thought that I was running a full business out of it, and again, you know, storing equipment there, it's not a reason for having to have a special use permit.
Yeah.
You know, if I was opening up a repair shop, or if I was, you know, having customers come there, and that was one of the things she even asked me about was if I had customers coming there, and said no. And she was kind of surprised with my answer on that, but I don't have customers coming there. I don't work on equipment that came from somebody else. The only equipment I work on is my own. And again, that's the stuff that I acquired, some of it from Sears or other places, and that's my own equipment. I store it in there, and, you know. like I said,
I'm not sure if she was using her basis for requiring a special use permit because there's no dwelling there, because nobody lives there. I don't know. I'm
Well,
just
that can't
speculating.
be either, though, because technically at that point in time, I should have never had the building permit there for actually building, because if you look at every other town's code, you have to have a dwelling before you build it. And obviously, she can't go back now and say, you know, wait a second, now we need your special use permit because I gave you the original.
Yeah, I don't think she'd ask you for a special use permit in this case unless you were gonna have
Well,
an
her
addition.
concern was
Have an addition, right?
the equipment outside, the trailers and everything, which, again, I talked to a lawyer about that I have, and he assured me that, well, if they're legally on the road, and they're parked on your property, there's nothing that, you know, that shouldn't be a concern, because, again, they're legally on the road. Just like any other vehicle, if you park a vehicle somewhere and it's legally on the road, it's no concern. And all of them are. You know, if I could see it, if I park, you know, 5 trailers out there, none of them have license plates on it, yeah, I guess that would be a concern, but they don't. And again, this is a temporary thing with the trailers anyways, like I said, again. I'm gonna end up getting rid of, basically half the trailers. I don't have a need for them anymore.
Okay. So we just need a motion to table this then until Shelley's here for the next meeting, and we can discuss the reasons for her bringing the special use permit requirement, I guess.
I mean,
Well, he's withdrawing it, so,
He's withdrawing his
right,
special.
so we
he's
can
gonna-
just go for clarification.
He's gonna come
Yeah,
back
okay.
though, want to get it again, so we want to
Okay.
make sure that we,
That's true, okay.
you know.
Closing the public hearing.
Yeah, well, we're closing the public hearing, yes. Yep. Motion for that first.
I have one question on it. Okay, so officially he's withdrawing, I think we have to take that as a, because otherwise you have to make a action within 62 days. So if you don't, you have to state in there that he's officially withdrawing.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was, yeah. So we need a motion from someone on the board to make a request that we allow the removal of his application.
I make that motion.
Okay?
Second.
All right, and we'll probably have to do a resolution to that it's withdrawn. Okay, and we'll try to get the answers so that when you want to build the building, we got everything needed to go forward with it. And I think it would be a good idea to look to, maybe Soil and Water could investigate the property to the east to see if we're gonna flood them if we go with their suggestion of a swale in the meantime.
And also the ditch to the north that we talked about running to 98.
Or go the other way?
Yeah. It's there, there's no houses on that side. I was looking.
Yeah, I think honestly, that would be the easiest solution right there.
So you're talking east, on the north side of the road, east,
Yeah,
go
running
east with it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because my property, my neighbor's property, and everybody, that would solve all the problems.
We get the town to pay for that, right? We all set.
Good luck.
Well, they can handle it too. They put the pipe and it comes on my
Just as long as
property.
it's lower on that side, it should be okay. It would require town approval?
You're talking about the water on the north side of the road going east.
Mhm.
Make it go uphill.
I don't think it'll work, but
It's worth a try.
You can ask the question.
Yeah.
Or it could go west.
It goes south. That's where it went years ago, that's where it needs to go now. I'm sorry, but if you own the property or not, that's the way it goes.
I have no problem with it, but again, it doesn't.
You can't change
It
it.
doesn't go for my property either.
As long as we leave it just the way it is.
Well, then things will stay the
Just the
same.
way it is.
And all he's gotta do to cure it is
Raise my property.
is build a swale on the east side of his property, and he'll do what it's been
There you go.
doing right along.
There you go.
I'm sorry, I came in late, but there was some documents from Soil and Water that came in.
Yes.
You did see those?
Discussed
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because you're talking about going south, and I was thinking that it had to head southeast, but it's southwest is the way it should head.
Right,
Yep.
Okay.
yeah.
I just wanted to make sure you had that.
Okay. So we'll move on to other old business.
Close public hearing?
Yet officially, need a motion to officially close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? So moving on to, okay, thanks, Joe.
Yeah, not a problem. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you, Rams.
Thank you. So the old business, the next on the agenda is the solar. So I'll let you take care of that.
So we had a letter sent to us after we were done last month. And the letter came to us from Lance Mark. And so, oops. let me get a hold of this one. Okay, and do the contents of the letter. So he made a couple suggestions that we change or make additions to the, what we had written before. And in my scratch here, I pulled out each one of his, there were 5 of them. And you can see at the top, it says, in the definition of BPVV systems, I am not sure the word relief is the right word, perhaps the word line or design. Something similar might make this clearer. Any other suggestions? I'm good with the word line, I think. The line of the roof.
Yeah, line.
Line. Okay. And then he asks if, because in 350.15, in B, it says that the uses shall be permitted in the AR district only. Is there a reason we didn't allow them in industrial commercial districts? Or was that just an oversight? I don't have a suggestion. Other
I
than
don't
just
either.
add
I don't know
them.
why you wouldn't.
I don't know why
If
you
you had a
wouldn't.
40,000 square foot roof, it'd make the most sense in an industrial area where it would be least offensive.
Okay, just add them?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So that's saying you need a special use permit no matter what.
yes.
Would that have an adverse effect from a business standpoint, that every time we wanted to do something to a building, would they be subject to another special use permit, even if it doesn't have anything to do with the solar? Let me clear that up a little.
Yes.
So, if something's permitted in the business or industrial district, and you have a special use permit, anytime you do a change, or let's say he wants an addition, he could do it, but if he has a special use permit because of the solar, is he gonna have to go through a special permit process every time? Or
Well, we review it, it's what we do
We do
now.
it every time, yeah.
The only time we decided not to review was on some of these cell towers, for a little addition, you know, another antenna up there. But we usually review
no
it.
matter what, you review it?
Well, not necessarily, I mean,
Yeah, we do, we go over it and
Yeah.
discuss it, but we don't change their special use, make them, you know, we could get another special use permit
Okay,
for it, so.
just a review.
just a review, okay.
But cell towers come with a special one because it's part of the communications
Yeah.
industry.
But what was happening, whenever they would come and put on another, I don't know if you've been by, you saw like they're a relay drum, they look like a drum up there, that's a relay. And then they had some little antennas. Well, according to our special use permit, every time they wanted to do something, they had to come, and remember, we decided,
Mhm.
let's just leave them alone on that,
Right.
yeah. But all the rest of them, I guess we review.
Does that answer your?
Yeah.
So how much industrial district is there in Berry?
All along 98.
Out of 98? So if you permit it in the industrial area, would that stop other businesses from developing that industrial area?
I just don't see how industrial size solar is gonna be in the business section, business, because it's only like a little corridor along 98. These things are acres, you know, like tens of acres. You don't have tens of acres along, no one's gonna put it along a strip, people's houses are all there, you know, I mean, it's gonna be in the fields behind the,
Okay, so that's, I guess I'm just trying to, why he, you know, that's why we didn't put industrial district in, is that what you're saying?
It
Because
seems
it's
like
not
it,
big enough.
there's no place in the industrial district for them to put an industrial size solar farm.
There's 80 acres where I am.
Yeah,
All your land is zoned industrial? 80 acres zoned industrial? I don't think so.
I
Look at
was
the
told it
maps.
was industrial and residential.
It's ag residential, most of it.
Ag residential, I was told. No, when my son came, we had a business, and I asked if we could, if he could keep that, and I was told it was industrial.
We have a map, it shows.
Exactly what is.
How
Yeah.
far back from 98?
Yeah, I don't remember how much
Right,
it is,
yeah.
a few hundred feet, that's
I
about
don't-
it.
Yeah, well, it's easy enough to find, it's in one of the books, comprehensive plan.
I don't know, I just know that that's what we were told, because
Oh,
we wouldn't have purchased it.
If you live on 98, you're in the industrial.
No.
Okay, so if there's some land there and
Correct.
they want to build some, an industry comes in and wants to build
Yeah.
something, a business, what if he wants to put on solar
Solar.
panels?
That's not industrial solar.
That's not the USDS.
That's not what we're talking with this.
Excess of 25 kWs, I think that's pretty big, isn't it? But,
But here's the point, let's just say they have one parcel that she's talking about, let's just take the 80 acres, and the first 500 feet or whatever our map shows is commercial.
Yeah.
The guy comes, he's just gonna put the solar panel on the whole thing, so some of the,
Is gonna be in the.
some of the polar are gonna be in the commercial district, so it doesn't hurt us by including it.
No,
right,
Okay,
And
It's just could be some overlap with the same parcel, could have two uses. like
Because they're
residential.
approving ag-res anyway, so
What's on the
the whole 80 could be used.
Okay, so that's why I'm gonna go back to my original question is, if we okay the zoning in industrial, are we shooting ourselves in the foot for further business development?
There's 35 to
That'd be a good problem.
40 just to give you a reference.
Yeah, we don't-
Not if we couldn't develop that anymore.
We have a question in the back as well.
If you take a look at the comprehensive plan, if you remember back a couple of months ago, I asked you about how we can proceed to modifying our codes. Because presently what you have on our books is that the industrial section is from 31A south to the cemetery. In a comprehensive plan, you wanted to extend that down to Pusey Road and from 98 out 31A to the west to Eagle Harbor, if I remember right.
Correct.
And we wanted to get that changed, so the comprehensive plan, or that the present codes that we have match the comprehensive plan.
Correct.
But those have never been changed so far, correct?
No, nothing's been changed yet. So on the books, we just have from 31A south to the cemetery.
No, we never changed it. It's a plan.
So does it say how far,
It's just a plan.
how far from 98 to 31A is the industrial zone?
How deep from the road?
Yeah.
Like eastward or westward from 98? That I honestly don't.
It's on the map.
I don't know if that
Okay.
shows.
Okay.
I think, George, it might be on the map if they're looking.
Okay.
It looked
How,
like
how wide,
maybe 4 feet for it.
can you tell how wide that is?
Because if it's only 200 feet
Remember that discussion?
and they want to do 80, I think it'd be easier just to say, leave it industrial off, and they can do the back agricultural residential. And that would still open up for businesses and stuff. Because I'm just thinking, if you want a business to come in and have, in front of the whole solar panels for, blocking their view of the business and whatever, it's just, you may not want to bring business in.
Probably a couple hundred feet.
I remember talking about it.
Like it's set back.
You would be in it, they just, yeah.
When we went through the comprehensive plan, and we talked about modifying the industrial district to include
31A.
31A, and then you came and questioned it a couple months ago, Sean. When we asked the county the question about how far back that goes on the parcels, but I can't remember the answer. I don't have my file with me about the comprehensive plan.
Did the map show it up?
Doesn't give a scale. It's not, it's just dotted line along the road.
I can't remember what they interpreted.
But it doesn't go all the way back to,
But the answer will answer the question. It doesn't, we have the words only allowed in AR districts.
right.
It's just a matter of taking that out.
But what I'm saying is why take it out? Because it may hurt us down the long run if we allow that. I mean, they could still develop it, if it's the 80 acres and that's they could still develop further back and still in the AR district. But you wouldn't be using up that road frontage for businesses.
That could be used for business.
That's what the whole, the industrial.
So we're leaving, so the logic is to leave it the way it is, leave it as the only AR district, because we don't want them to use up valuable
Industrial area.
industrial zoned areas. That would be more valuable.
And like you say, I don't think they would anyways unless they're trying to use the AR in the back and then have the frontage, but you're using up that frontage space. I don't know if that, I personally don't think it's a good idea. to have it up front.
We've got.
Well, we're gonna take I'll use yours as a reference, so it's 80 acres. Now, you didn't buy 400 feet of our commercially zoned and the rest ag residential. It would be up to the landowner, when they come in there and buy it, we're gonna tell them you can't buy the first 400 feet?
No, they can develop that into a business and everything, and the way it is, but you can't do solar. But you can do solar in the back.
How can you tell people what to do on their own?
That's what zoning is
That's what
about.
zoning is.
No,
Boy, we should record that.
That's what zoning is.
But again, if they're developing a business along the road and want to put solar on their business, we don't want to restrict them from that.
We do if it's going to stop further business from coming in.
no.
No, because they're already there along the road. If there's a business, if it's industrial, and they're building right there on 98, they should have that option to be able to put solar on their business.
Yeah, and you've already put in how many feet back it has to be, and then it has to have a permit,
But
and
as long-
other things. You've already come across that. You've already
What's
stipulated
the
it
purpose
to
of
be
them
so
putting
far
solar
back.
on their business?
And you had to
Well, I
have
don't know, I'm
something.
just saying.
No, that's where the definition comes from. If they're putting solar on their business for their own purpose, that's a separate definition than if
That's-
they're putting solar on their land
Right.
to
No, I'm not
sell.
saying on the
for
land.
utility.
I'm saying on their business.
Doesn't matter.
No,
If they've got a
that's-
roof big
right.
enough,
That's right. That's not the 25. I'm talking about a solar farm.
yeah.
Oh, farms,
Yeah.
okay.
Because that's, I mean, this is big.
If you potentially had a roof big enough that you wanted to put solar panels on and use them for uses,
Mhm.
then that's a separate
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
entity.
I agree.
But a solar farm, I agree with you,
Okay.
solar farm. We do not want solar farms
That's what I was saying.
there.
That's
Okay,
what I
so
was
you
saying.
need to designate that, yes.
And that's what I'm saying,
Solar
don't
farm is
change.
what we're saying,
don't
not a
change
business to, yeah, the business can do it and put solar on, but
Right,
we don't want
right.
them coming and buying that, making it a whole big solar farm.
For
And I need-
utility.
yeah,
They can't
I-
use it for utility.
But are you saying that I have to put it on my buildings? I can't use my land for solar panels to run my business?
No, not at all.
If you're gonna produce more than 25 kilowatts, yeah, you can't. That's the way we get it. No.
Okay, but I can put panels out on my land as far back as I want.
Like Wes is he's in the industrial zoning. He's
District.
got panels on his house.
But he's got them on the
It's
house.
because it's a residential thing, and anyone who has whether it be a business or their own house, if they're putting it for themselves, it's considered a residential setup, not a farm.
Right.
And it's not above this particular kilowatt.
Right, but what I'm saying, John, is I don't want to put them on my roof. I want to put them on
Yeah.
panels
Ground
out
mount.
on the ground.
There's a ground mount.
Right.
As long as it's not more than the
As long as
25.
you're using it for your consumption and not a business is a basic way to think about it. It's doable, right?
Yeah, but it's not being, you could be using it for your business and operate your
No.
business, but it's not being
Sold
operated
back.
solely as a
Correct.
power
Yeah.
plant.
Yeah.
that type of thing.
And for reference, I'm guessing not guessing, the public library in Albion is a public building. They're over 25 kW. That looks more probably,
But it isn't, they're not a power plant.
they're not a power plant, but they're over the 25 kW.
It would be close. I don't know exactly, but they would be on the upper limit there.
Yeah.
You know, I think we should find out what the distance is here in this business district before you go changing anything. You can't tell by this map how far back. Well, maybe you could, if you know some of the properties.
Here, let's see.
Take yours, Wes.
Look at your house.
Where's yours on there?
Can you tell where your house is there, Wes?
Yeah.
You're talking about extending our business district down to the west from 98, 31A. There's a lot of open land there that you could run into trouble by not allowing a solar farm along that road.
Not if it's zoned industrial. And we know, and we got it, and we just leave the wording the way it is.
Any guesstimate there, Wes?
That's why it would be nice to know how far you're saying industrial is
Well,
on
yeah,
the road, yeah, off the
No,
road that
It doesn't, My property's right in there.
Oh, yeah.
Inside of the,
Pink thing,
yeah,
which they've done away with.
the planned industrial commercial,
Large, it was supposed to be heavy commercial or something, that pink.
yeah.
So what we're saying is that if I'm a developer and I come by and I'm gonna buy this land, there's 100 acres. I have no intention of putting a business there. So in the first 500 feet, that's now my setback, because once I get outside that little dotted line, I can put my solar farm. And then if I feel like it, if a neighbor comes by, I can let him put his business in front of my property, because I own it.
I would think so.
Well, what's gonna make me do that? You know what I mean?
You're being, well, getting money for the taxing for industrial, and he's not using it, so he's gonna say, man, if I'm not using it, I'm gonna have to get a business or something. Or I'm gonna have to put that amount into my expense ledger on the expense side with no solar up there. But that won't interfere with other businesses wanting to come in and set up shop.
Just gonna be a vacant lot.
From a utility point of view, the reason why you want large solar farms close to 98 is because it's the only place you have three-phase power.
Yeah.
Correct.
You need a three-phase hookup.
And it won't be a vacant lot because he'll be paying taxes in it, so it'll be a money-making lot for the town.
Look at
He's
the
gonna
ones-
pay taxes on it anyways, is what I'm saying.
Look at the ones on 98 that you had at Batavia, they're way back, and bring them up to,
On 98, but if you go over by on your way to the college,
Yeah, it's right
that
next
one
to
is
the road.
right on the thruway, and it's not that far. I don't know why you would want to stop.
What's your distance now? When
Well-
you put a distance now from the road, you can't put them up. There was a distance from the road in, you had to go.
It's 100 feet
100
Yeah.
feet
from a road.
from the road. So why not an industrial area also? If you made it that, then why
Well,
doesn't it cover everything?
that's the way it's written right now, is that they can't do it in industrial. They shall only be.
Set back to 100.
From
Everywhere
a
else.
public road, yes, from
Yeah.
a road.
So we
The
gotta
way
find out
this
how
is
far
written, it's shoving it to the back of the
Yeah, whatever that is.
industrial line is.
We gotta find out where industrial
You're right on the 100 feet, because this email was from March 1st, 2017.
100.
She specifically asked how we wanted it on the map, and that was,
So the industrial, is it 100 feet?
well, it's 100 feet, that's what was intended to be when we were talking about the comprehensive plan, making it 66 feet, which would just be the right of way, and the county suggested we make it 100.
So the setback for the solar panels to the road is 100, our industrial is 100, we don't have to change anything. They can't put it on it anyway.
Is that 100 feet from the edge of the road or from the center of the road?
Center of the road.
Center of the
Okay,
road.
so if we went from the edge of the road, then it'd be,
Set it right away.
Center
Right
of
away.
the road.
That'd be 33 feet, 66 total
Mhm.
per right away.
I'm still confused with this argument. So Wes, do you get two tax bills, one that says that your first 100 feet is, no, you got one parcel.
Only has to do with.
So why do I care if he puts a solar farm on it or he puts a building on it? It's still revenue to the town, and your argument is saying he's paying more revenue because it's commercial? I'm just trying to figure out,
It's the whole idea behind. it.
no, he's paying taxes, exactly.
He's talking, he wants to attract businesses, correct?
correct.
But we're not losing anything by moving it, we're at 100 feet either way. So
Correct.
you can have the solar and the business, so we're good.
Correct.
Just leave it the way.
Just don't
is.
want it up, into, so if we just leave it industrial free, we don't have to change anything. We just leave it agricultural residential,
Just leave it the way it is.
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I move to leave it the way it is.
All right.
So there's no farm in the industrial area, is what you're saying.
Correct.
There's no room for.
But the
It
industrial.
doesn't matter anyways, because it's 100 feet setback, so it's saying the same thing.
The industrial is only 100 feet from the road anyway. Next.
Yes, once.
Has any of you gone down and looked back by the sewer plant,
Mhm.
that sucks.
It's definitely not 100 feet.
Not,
Mm-mm.
not even close. They're closer to being on the road.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next.
Next, number 3. He asked if there's a reason we put 90 days on the solar collectors residential and 6 months on the uses. Is it because of the size?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay.
But is 90 days too much? I mean, that has 3 months, right? 3 months compared to 6 months?
Right,
I would think 3 months is enough for,
for residential.
but is that what we're saying, is that if they decide to not, they're not use them anymore, they have to take them off their roof? As opposed to just leave them there? How are they gonna, how's that?
You're never gonna
How are we
know.
gonna know?
Never gonna know.
You're putting a policy you can't enforce.
I know.
Well, you could if something happened. So,
Fire?
yeah, if something happens and you're writing it in here and saying, you know, if you knowingly have it on top of your roof and let it degrade, in ours, we said you should have gotten rid of it. We're never gonna know the difference until after something happens. But the town is out of it. That's your responsibility.
I think the reason it's in there is because we copied it from somebody else.
True.
Probably more.
We thought it sounded good.
Yeah.
Sound good. Okay, next.
So, in G, in 350-118, that's not residential, that's an industrial solar.
No, the one next one.
No, go ahead here. 119
119 is the,
is the utility scale.
okay.
The USSES.
Is a utility scale.
Okay, so, again, if you don't know that, there's no teeth in this either, because there's no, you know, if it's still there, you start paying a penalty. If, you know, if they start it back up on, you know, the 14th month, I mean, it's kind of open-ended, but,
I don't know how you're gonna police it.
exactly.
Unless it's fallen down, you're in
Well, no, on
disrepair.
these ones, they have a special use permit every year
On the utilities.
on the utility ones, on the large scale ones, so that's how we police it. And when they no longer renew it, we know that
They're out.
they're out, and that's when it starts to window.
That's probably the more important one, isn't it?
Correct.
Right, that's what so, do you put any teeth in it besides you don't get a permit? Is there any penalty?
They gotta take it down in 6 months.
But shouldn't there be a penalty?
Or
Because
what?
if there's not using it,
Well, I
he's gonna
think
say,
somewhere-
There was a
somewhere
penalty in our
there
mass,
is-
in the one we submitted, in the original one.
Yeah, there should be a penalty.
Penalties and expenses. Violations of this section are subject to maximum fines of $250 per day. Each day of violation is a separate offense.
Perfect. So should we have a little thing in there to that section, just like a referral to that?
it's all right here. It's-
Yeah,
we
it's
just have
any
to look for
offenses.
penalties. Yeah, it's all in the solar, so,
Perfect.
yeah.
Okay, so that's why we're leaving that one the way it was written. And then he has, right. Is there any reason not to put the New York State Uniform Fire and Prevention Building in F?
As it does in H. Recommended to use the same wording?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds good.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Use the same one? Okay. And then the last one is, please correct the spacing in section 390, 119H, and I don't understand what he's referring to.
Where's-
We're in this one now. 119H.
Other than-
150, 100.
Oh,
In the copy that I had, it still had 50 instead of 100 in the,
it's supposed to be a minimum of 50 feet. I thought that got changed.
Yeah, I've changed 100 to 50, but not the wording.
Yeah. But you did change it, Lee.
I thought I did.
Yeah,
yeah.
he must have got an old copy.
Okay.
Possible. I will change.
You've got the new copy
I
here.
don't, no, this is where we made the changes,
Oh,
but I didn't
okay.
get it, I don't have a new one.
Oh, the new copies, I handed them to him,
Till
at the
the
town board meeting.
Right, we're gonna hand them back to you.
We'll hand them.
Yeah.
Let's see.
No, I'm gonna do Wednesday is I'm gonna make a resolution that we submit them back to you for any changes that need to be made.
Yeah.
So they just get transferred back, so
Like
people
these
know
ones,
what's
right.
going on. That's all.
So you
Right.
have it, is it right there?
It is 50 here. But on this copy here, it does have, and I didn't see it in the one I had, but H, there is a space underneath H to the A, if he's talking about a space in the wording.
Yeah.
Just remove,
Mine is in here, I kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
We kind of figured it out earlier.
Yeah.
where I changed the one, and it's like, okay, is that what he's really talking about?
yeah, so let's
But
just
I will
remove the
go through and
spacing.
do that.
So,
Yeah, see, I don't
Two-
know the
Yeah,
old one.
I didn't either.
two things on that though. If you go to D, and let's say the property owner wanted to put up a building, on his own property, but they were already built 50 feet from his property, he wouldn't be allowed to build on his own property because we have 100 feet from that building or structure. And the second thing is, it's from public roads, a minimum of 100 feet from the right-of-way. So I'm assuming you're taking it from the middle of the road. And again, I think that's gonna be too short because you're bringing that right in. And by the time you put up a berm or some type of a blockage, they're gonna really be too close to the road.
Well, again, this is for the farms, the big farms, so
Right.
when you say, buildings, for buildings or structures on the lot proposed minimum
That's from
of
D.
100 feet, that's, you want that farm 100 feet from any building or whatever.
So, but if you're from the property line, I guess you can't put a building right on your own property line though, right? You can't build it right close.
Yeah.
It's gotta be a minimum setback there. But from the public road, if you're going from the middle of the road, I think that's too short. By the time you put up,
Well, why didn't you say that last month?
I can't think of everything. But that's up to the public.
That's 100 foot.
I mean, the public's gonna be able to have their say on this too, so.
It seemed like 100 foot was fine, right? Because they require a fence and,
You know, it seems like if they're gonna come in, put a solar farm in there, and they feel they need more room, then they'll move it back.
Right, I just don't want the property owner, the other adjacent property owner not being able to do things. he
you're gonna
wants
be
to on his
across the
property.
road, right? It would have to be somebody that's across the road.
Or next door.
From the middle of the road to the
Next door.
side road is what?
If you're
90
talking-
feet,
You're
30 feet?
talking about
33 feet.
public roads, minimum.
On state
100
roads.
feet.
So we're looking at 70 feet then from the road.
Yeah, see, I was taking that from the.
I mean, the shoulder isn't 33 feet, it's 33 because
You just
all
lost
like
one.
most of your power utilities are in
But-
that right of way.
I don't know where you're
You
going.
got enough.
Okay with the way it's written?
Yeah.
Alright. And then just change, it's a simple one, the bottom one is just make that a lowercase a.
Capital
In accordance. Okay. You changed it already?
I got it, just getting a whole new one of these.
Well, Tom, you're gonna hand that one back Wednesday night, what if we just hand you one right back? That we just went through?
That's fine, because
Okay.
we've got one, and
Give that back.
I think we need to know if we've changed in here, and the public
Sure.
needs to know if we switched things, and you're finding that the one you handed that needed some changes, so we're just gonna hand it back to you to make those changes.
Have you made any changes?
I haven't, no.
So you don't want us to, what do you think? You'll hand it back to us, you don't want us to hand one?
You can
this
hand
one?
it back.
What do you wanna do?
If, as soon as Lee's done with it, make those corrections and
Yeah, Lance is
submit
already
that
on
one
it.
to the town. We
Yeah.
don't need it back again.
Well, you'll be sending us copies of it, so we have it,
Yes.
yeah.
But we don't need the original back
Right.
because of this exchange.
No, I just don't want them to get mixed up, so we can do away with those
No,
originals.
just
that
do
you
away
sent
with them.
us.
This is the.
And then you hand them back to us, I don't care.
All right.
Where's it go from there? Goes
County.
to county? You guys?
Yeah, we're gonna sit down and take a year and a half to read it probably, but we'll review the thing. I'll make a suggestion. When that's handed in to us, it would have a cover letter on it stating that we've worked on this for X number of length of time. We've looked at various other things on it, and what we are proposing to the board is what we feel is best for the people of the town of Berry. So that we've got just a cover letter saying what it is, and then if there's anything special in it, you can note that, and then we can go in and look at just those pieces.
So is that something for West or Tom to do?
I got it.
So now that you're making changes, you gotta send that back to Lance then? No? So once the changes are made, Lee can have it on so we can print it out. What website does it go on? Does it go under, like, under your minutes? Your meeting minutes and that? What website? Cause I'm not finding nothing.
It's right on, the one that's been on there is right on there. If you go to Town of Berry and you go down, it'll say, working on the zoning for solar. Call, it's got everybody's name on there. Right, Lee? And at the bottom, you press on that and it'll come up. It's on the town website.
I believe it's separate than the meeting minutes, right?
Yeah, it's separate.
It's separate than the meeting
It's
minutes.
a whole-
If you're looking at the meeting minutes, you're not gonna find it there.
Yeah, town highlights.
So, if we wanna, because you're gonna say, well, why didn't you bring this up last time? I'm gonna go back to the public road.
Okay,
If you're measuring that from the center of the road, I'm thinking, you're cutting 33 feet off there. We're saying they need to have some type of a berm or trees or something there.
Fence.
So they're gonna plant fences. And somebody's driving down that road and loses control. That only is gonna give them 40 feet to make a decision before they hit something. Can we make that 100 feet from the edge of the road? Can we give them an extra 40 feet, 33 feet, whatever it is?
What did the other towns have? I mean, we must have, I think that's what they had. George, you're trying to get away from a lot of wasted land.
I'm trying
The
to
further
save-
you go,
save
the
that.
more waste you've got, the more you have to maintain weeds, brush, whatever.
But they're putting up trees and,
Well, they're putting up fence.
If they put up fence or trees or something, and you got, I was thinking from the edge of the road. So I'm thinking, okay, you got time. But you take that from the middle of the road, you're cutting out some reaction time.
So we're talking, what, 20 feet difference here?
30.
The roads are 60 foot wide?
Well, it's a regulation.
What's that?
Property lines in the location of convention design existing structures is 500 feet
So,
from the solar panels. Minimum 200, and then public road, yeah.
How close can you build a house?
Ridgeway is 200 feet
Closer than
from
that.
any public road
How close can you plant your tree?
right away.
I don't know if there's a zone.
I don't know, that's what
It's my tree.
Well, that's what I'm telling you. I can tell you there's some things that are close to the road.
Right, that's probably should.
Well, if it's 100 feet from the center of the road before anything starts,
But people's barns.
before the berm starts, the fence,
Jordan, no.
Something we can change.
But the wording is to a
Walking out of the
solar
barn.
structure.
got to the fence.
Well, I'll ask Sean.
But yeah, it's to, it was, the point was to the solar structure.
So all you gotta change, if this is our holdup here, 100 feet from, what, the edge of the public road? Instead of the center?
So whoever goes off the road doesn't go catch the fence. Give them a little bit more time to get back in. That sounds good.
Make a motion, we'll vote it.
I can't.
Oh, yeah, you can.
You can't get anyone to make a motion, I guess.
Yeah, so I have to leave it, the public will have to.
Well, I'm gonna tell you here, Ridgeway has it on theirs, from public roads, a minimum of 200 feet from any public road, measured from the road right-of-way line.
Okay.
So Ridgeway is 200 feet.
Sean, what, did you have something to say? You were shaking your head back there.
Well, the one thing I don't agree with what George had said about 100 feet from the edge of the road, is you don't have a definitive place on the edge of the road.
Right.
Whether it's the edge of the road or the edge of the shoulder, you have a definitive center of the road. So make the measurements, but if you want to go, maybe you were trying to save some room there, or whatever the width of the road is, okay, instead of 100 feet, go 120 feet. Make it definitive from the center of the road.
Yeah, that's a good.
That's the best way to go. Yeah.
The right-of-ways are different on town roads, county roads, and state.
And town roads, yes. The largest right of ways on the state roads.
So can you do the state roads, 200 roads?
Well, our state roads are where the industrial is,
50? Okay.
so 150 feet from the middle of the road, 150 feet.
I make a motion,
versus-
Okay.
120 feet from the center of the road, change that.
Section E, public road.
If we don't do a second, we don't do a second. If we get a second, then we have to vote on it.
So is
I'll
this,
second it just to move on with this thing.
well, I just think, I mean, you
'Cause-
want to take and set it back enough that when the public looks at this and says, well, where did you come up with 100,
Let them know, you ask.
I don't know. I just
We
think-
discussed it.
Go ahead.
Second.
We got a lot of stuff in this town a lot closer than 120 foot already.
Right, and if we could have changed that, it would have been safer. Now we have a chance to say change it.
What are we doing? Did
They
somebody-
seconded
I
it.
seconded it.
Mhm.
Okay. Can I have a motion, can I have, no, that's the motion. Can we have a, do we want to approve it? A vote? All yea, all nay, all opposed? Nobody. All for it? No. No what?
Not all for it.
So,
Okay.
so make a vote, count them.
Yeah, counted.
Okay. Can we have a,
How many are in favor, that's
what's that?
all.
Who's in favor
Who's in favor
of 120 feet?
of 120 feet? Yes.
Yeah, that's fine with me. That's-
All right.
Any opposed?
I already seconded it, so how can you look at me?
Okay.
I've seen that happen before, where you seconded it to approve me. I mean, come on. I don't see how that can happen.
It happened.
Oh, yeah. That's just,
You can change your vote and
that's
it's
like sitting on
One
a
for and one
fence.
against. One,
Well,
one,
I helped you out one way.
One no.
one abstain.
You said four?
Four, one.
You know, just got people saying no.
Okay, so we're on
You know, it's
the-
funny,
one
yeah,
no.
it's awesome. I'm gonna go next, I don't care what it is.
Okay.
You keep fighting over my new shit.
Okay.
This is-
Okay.
I brought it up to you.
Moving on.
So next on the agenda, we got the subdivision, and I don't know if we got any new news on that or not, did we?
No.
Okay. And then the next is the BSR letter, which I think everybody received this BSR letter was relative to a letter that the town, did everybody see that? No.
Yep. I sent you a, where's, you got a copy of it?
What did they do with it?
This needs to go back that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Visual resource?
Yeah, I was trying to find the letter, it's probably in the mailbox. I left it back. You don't have a copy of that, Andy? Well, basically, the Town of Berry Planning Board received a request from an engineering company by the name of EDR, who was conducting a visual sensitive resource analysis of sensitive resources that exist in the town of Berry. And they provided, in the letter, they're hired on behalf of Apex, and they provided in the letter a listing of all the visually sensitive resources that existed in our town and also existed in other towns within the 10 airline miles of the center of the project, of the Apex project. These sites that they listed were based upon a criteria which was historical. What were the other things? Historical? Wish I had the letter.
Public land. It
Public
was like
land.
parks,
Parks.
rec, schools,
Cemeteries.
historical, and,
Churches.
yeah, churches were in there,
Cemeteries.
and, cemeteries.
Or any other residential.
If there was a historical
Yeah.
monument placed somewhere.
Yeah,
And
so, go ahead.
They're supposed to do this for their application process. And so that's their due diligence to finding all these visual, sensitive places in all these towns. And they can say they did it. The problem is they sent out this letter that is so congruent and wordy, and that most towns, and they went to towns and most towns, I'll use Clarendon as an example, it was, yeah, we got this thing, I'm not really sure what it is, it's something Barry's got going on, and I don't think we have to waste time with it. And they just put it to the side. And so they're missing out on, not letting that this is one of the ways that the government or state's gonna say, oh yeah, they let everybody know. They got all this letter to all these towns, and so everybody should know what's going on. But it's getting short-circuited because the letter is so congruent and so wordy, and so that nobody's spending the time with it. What Clear Skies has requested, because Clear Skies got one too, is that they send another letter out with instructions of what specifically they're asking the towns to do. Specifically, what impacts or what businesses or what we're supposed to give them back. And not just throw it out and say, geez, I don't know, that's gonna be too hard, and let it go. because that's what they want to happen, because it meets their criteria, they're done.
Yeah.
They're done with
I
it.
disagree with you, George, because I got that, and I read it, and it explained, this is what they want. I don't know how it could be any simpler.
How many pages is it?
I responded to it. I was one of the few of you guys,
And
that,
that's-
like,
and
of what they
that-
left off.
That,
I
that
don't know.
helps. So that meets, again, their criteria, that we have public responding to it, so it's all good. But they'll leave off that the public that's responding are leaseholders.
Well, I wanted to go through, I wanted to go through how we reacted to this, and I wanted to make sure everybody understood exactly what it is. It's a request from EDR, privately held company, hired by Apex, and they're required to do this study. And the subject on the letter says, Heritage Wind Project, Identification of Visually Sensitive Resources, Official Request for Information. And they're trying to identify in that 10-mile radius, properties of historical significance, designated scenic resources, public lands and recreational resources, and high-use public areas. And they're asking for feedback. And they asked the Town of Berry Planning Board to make sure that all these resources that they listed, we agree with, and there weren't any more in our town that we think should be added.
Quite a list there, huh?
They got a long list. And then they also provided this map, which, from what I see, shows where you're gonna see the towers within that 10-mile area.
Who got those? I didn't get one. Who got them?
So these were sent to, Sean got one. The town historian got one, Wes got one, I got one. That's the only people in the town that got them.
Kirk and Steve just said they got one.
Well, I think they got
No,
my
I did
email.
not get it.
No, I can't- well, you guys circulated the email, just to be fair, it went out to all the planning members,
Right.
Yeah, and we asked for input.
and you asked for input, went to all of us.
All right, so that's,
But it went to all, I mean, it went to all these municipal agencies also. People, for
Byron,
instance, in
Virgin,
Clarendon, Oakfield,
Yeah.
Ridgeway, Clarkson,
all the way from Roy.
Sweden,
Hart to-
Heartland, Newstead, Stafford, Yates, Medina, Bergen, Erie County, Orleans County, Genesee County, Monroe County, Niagara County,
Interesting.
New York State Parks and Recreation, DEC, Native American Services, Iroquois Wildlife Refuge, Cayuga Nation of New York, Seneca Nation, Clear Skies, Genesee Valley, Audubon, La Bella, and so forth. And attorneys that are supported by both groups. So, it was a letter to ask all those individuals and municipalities if there are other resources that they think should be identified. So,
Well, just in looking through that, Westbury Cemetery is not on there.
We answered the letter,
Okay.
and with your suggestions, we put in the 7 cemeteries in Berry and sent the letter back.
yeah, Wes responded with you want to read that so everybody knows?
Sure. Said, Dear Mr. Robinson, I am writing in response to your letter March 4th, 2019 regarding the Heritage Wind Project and the identification of visual sensitive resources. Upon receiving your letter, I did share with other members of the planning board. The common response made was the several cemeteries in Berry that are not on your list. These are, and I listed the 7 of them, as Berry Center Cemetery, East Berry Cemetery, East Shelby Cemetery, Green Farm Cemetery, Myrtle Hill Cemetery, Pine Hill Cemetery, Snyder or Burma on Maple Ridge, and Westbury Cemetery. I said, however, unfortunately, the date that we received your letter and the required response date of April 3rd fall between our monthly board meetings. It would be beneficial for the board to have a few more weeks to be able to discuss at a meeting for a more thorough response. Sincerely.
Wasn't April 26th on that?
It was,
Okay.
yeah, but it was in the box in here, so by the time we actually got the letter,
But it's not April 26th yet.
No, March 26th.
March
I
26th.
thought I read April.
They wanted responses by April
3rd.
3rd.
Oh, okay, it must have been one of the other letters that I read, April 26th, but okay.
So
Okay.
if anybody, if there's anybody that wants to provide any other resources that aren't listed in here,
And if I could, I mean, Sean gave me his letter too, and I can just tell you what he
Oh, okay.
wrote as well. Dear Mr. Robinson, your request to me as Berry Supervisor dated March 4th, 2019, identify any locations within our town that will be visually impacted by wind turbines in 4 categories. The only location I found missing was the Berry Town Park. As for the rest of the town, the turbines will be hard not to see. Do not take this as a negative input on your request, and it is a fact. The town of Berry has a terrain that is flat and is located in a relatively flat county of Orleans. Now you place wind turbines that will be approximately 650 feet to the tip of the blade in our town. Where would we not visually impact? Would be a better question. The Xerox Towers in Rochester, New York is the tallest structure in Rochester at 443 feet and can be seen by the time you have driven about halfway between Berry and Rochester. One Seneca Center in Buffalo, New York is the tallest at 520 feet. We were where there are visual impact studies performed for those structures. You asked for the specific location that will be impacted. I dare say that the majority of the residences, as well as the businesses, Berry Town Park, churches, historic places will be impacted. Once again, I'm not saying this is a negative issue. You are asking where wind turbines will have a visual impact. I am stating that due to our geography, that it will be difficult not to see them, sincerely.
Well said, Sean.
Okay, so any more questions or discussion on that? Okay. Next, this is the county, you want that back?
Yep.
Okay.
It's actually not mine.
Next is Josh Piscatelli, and Shelley's not here to talk about that one, but he had a building permit to put up a structure on Eagle Harbor Road behind the trailer there. And I drove by there, it's got some damage from the wind.
Was a coverall, wasn't it?
Yeah, so he wants to put up a permanent foundation now and put up concrete or a pole barn, so. But he hasn't come with an application yet, but the question is going to be whether or not, he's on a county road, so whether or not he's gonna have to go to the county, or whether or not we're gonna say that he does not need a permit going forward, or whether he does need a permit going forward. Because his site plan review previously was for a coverall building.
Is the pole barn gonna be the same dimension as the,
I think so, we don't really know yet, so. We gotta find the details out, but that's probably gonna be here next month.
Did his original one go to county because it was a temporary structure? I don't believe it did.
I can't remember that.
I don't believe it
I don't think so.
did.
I
Yeah, we
think
determined it was gonna be a
Yeah.
temporary structure, it didn't send it to
I don't
county.
believe so.
better look it up,
Yeah, we'll find
because
out.
it is on the county road.
Yeah.
And it was a change in venue.
I don't know, I understood it, that, I don't know if you put a concrete floor and footer on it, that maybe changed it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know he had it covered
This
up,
time we'll have to go to
the wind is tore it covered.
Just put it up on the-
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe this time it would.
Anything else on that?
Where's that?
It's on Eagle Harbor Road, so, east side of the road, north of,
He had some little
the
thing
hamlet.
there, but it
First
wasn't
place
a
north
big
of the
one
hamlet.
that he had said he was putting Never saw it all fall, never got it.
It's
Second
running a
place.
business there.
I'm more in the cemetery, so I'm looking here. Oh, but he never got his turkey area.
Was it up, Tom, was that up? Was that coverall barn up?
Yeah,
It was up,
yeah.
and moved down.
Well, he had a little coverall thing that got all torn up, but I don't ever remember seeing the big one back
Yeah,
there.
it was up.
What?
It was
It's
up
in
for a
the
couple
fall.
weeks.
It's out back,
Pardon?
it's out back. The wind, when it come up, it tore that cover right off.
Gonna put it in my cemetery? Am I gonna have to
No,
take that out of
it's-
there?
It ripped it
There
down.
might be some pieces.
The one up
fabric
on
over
the
there.
back.
Yeah,
I didn't see anything, I mean, the structure's still intact, just the covering's all in tatters, you know, I mean, it's
Mhm.
completely amazing what the wind did to it, just tore it all up.
it was sitting out in the middle there, and it was gonna
But-
happen.
Strangely enough, all the structure didn't get, you'd think from,
Yeah,
it would have tore that up, you know?
yeah.
You know, if it was like a greenhouse or something, it would have been gone.
I think it was maybe an inexpensive cover and it wasn't really very tight.
Can you buy those different millimeters?
Because you've got a structure similar to that, and it doesn't, the wind doesn't, I mean, look at the town over here, it's got a big one, it's been here for how many years?
Stay put if you hook
Got
it
it
to the ground.
anchored right, yeah.
Yeah.
It must have did something wrong.
All right, so the next thing is the county planning board. And the county planning board had 5 referrals back on March 28th. Before they got to the referrals, they talked about a new planner that took Sarah Gotti's job. Tim German took Sarah's job, but they got a new one there also by the name of Tom Lampo. And he is at the planning board meetings now and managing
Tom,
referrals.
back up a minute. What, Tom Lampo is what?
He's an equal to what Sarah Gotti was, and Tim German. So Tim German and Tom Lampo are gonna be, I'm assuming, both working for Jim Bensley.
I don't know, we got Lampos.
Do we know-
over here.
Yeah, I heard he was from Barry, but I don't
Oh,
know.
must be the
Yeah,
kid, yeah,
yeah.
all right.
So, they asked us to check with the board members and make sure everybody was in the process of obtaining the training needed for each year. They talked about a new website they're gonna have for emailing referrals, and they're sending out an email soon once that gets up and running. They got a new county secretary who started on April 1st. And then the first referral was for a request for an amendment to the zoning in the town of Carlton for a private airstrip. Down there, that got passed. Then, the second one was for the village of Medina, across from the Walsh Hotel there by the Railroad Museum. There's a existing building they're converting to a hostel. And that was approved. Then, the most controversial referral of the night was from the town of Murray. And in the town of Murray, this is kind of interesting, because we don't have anything like this in our town, but the town of Murray brought a request for an amendment to the text of the zoning to provide regulation for special events at farms and wineries. And it was an amendment that called for the establishment of a new section titled Wedding, Receptions, and Similar Special Events Incidental Only to Agricultural Operations, Wineries, and Other Farm Operations. The new section would require the issuance of a special use permit in the event of that an agricultural operation, winery, or similar farm operation wishes to hold a wedding, a reception, and or a special event on their grounds as an accessory use within the residential agricultural district. Such permit would be granted on a 12-month basis at the discretion of the town planning board. So they went through the question and answer process with this referral, and there was a lot of opposition to it. Just to give you an idea, two of the things that they questioned, one of them was that you had to have dustless parking and dustless driveways. Also, they had to have fresh water supplies, wastewater facilities, and high-end portable toilet bathrooms. Porta potties, such as those typical to a construction site, are prohibited. So this was reviewed by like I said, a lot of people had questions. And then the Herds stood up and discussed their opposition to it, because there's a local law in the town that's a right to farm law, and this somewhat contradicted that law. And they also have in the right to farm piece, they also talk about an agricultural committee that exists to deal with conflict if they have these types of issues that come up. So that got denied and didn't go anywhere.
Who brought it forward?
The town attorney was the name on the,
Jeff Martin?
Yep.
Was Jennings involved in that? I mean, they were the ones that got in trouble a year ago over this. On the Lake Road?
yeah, the basis, it says in the background, in May of 17, the county planning board received a request for a use variance for a facility at 3990 Lake Road to allow the use of an existing barn as an event venue within an RA district. The facility had been previously used for weddings as well as horse shows. While the horse shows were determined to be permitted use, they fall under the definition of agribusiness. The use of the space for weddings was determined to not be lawful. So, anyway, I don't know, was that in the paper or on the hub? I didn't see
That
it.
wasn't.
So, does the town have to follow the county's recommendation on that or not?
Yeah, they got it.
I guess they could,
No, they are.
well, they gotta have a good reason not to, right? They have to have all
I
their
think they're still in that
um,
time.
supporting documentation why they don't want to follow the county's recommendation.
So what's
But
the
the Herds were
recommendation?
against putting the law in place,
Right,
correct?
Correct.
So they can still do the venue.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
that what they're saying?
So
Gotcha.
they can have weddings on agricultural things, is that what you're just saying?
Yeah, currently there's no zoning that requires any permit for that, so,
So right to farm and getting married are the same.
yeah.
Guys get involved.
And they got it,
Right to farm, right to marry, do whatever you want.
You could marry it, marry it.
Do whatever you want.
Well, they had a zoning officer in Murray a year ago that, nothing probably would have happened and he got involved. But,
yeah.
a lot of what you have, Hickory Ridge and the golf course out there, there was 3 other venues in the town of Murray, and they didn't feel it was fair to let them proceed.
So then, there was a request in the town of Yates to rezone parcel on Miller's Road for a Medina window. And that was approved from agricultural to industrial. And then lastly, the Village of Holly had a dimensional clarification in their zoning that they got changed. Wasn't a real big, just clarification things. Then they talked about the flood mapping program. FEMA is, within 14 months is gonna have new work maps, and the public will have input on those work maps for the flood map that they're creating or updating them. And then 2 years after that, they'll become official. So 14 months till they have the maps done, and then 2 years of comment and modification, and we'll have new floodplain maps. Erie Canal is in the floodplain. I didn't know that. Thought that was interesting. I don't know if we have a floodplain plain manager in our town, but that's something that's gonna be, that will be requested when they're redoing these maps.
I
So,
nominate Kurt Dudley.
He's good with water. Stop.
The other thing, just similar topic, but Luann Tierney.
Tierney.
Yeah. She sent me and Wes to the agreement between the county and the town for the things that go to the county. Referrals which need to go to the county and referrals that don't need to go to the county. So just, I mean, we pretty much know what those are, but just a few things that are interesting that you forget about. Let's see. Minor land use actions exempt from county review. Projects which require a site plan review for the following, regardless of whether an area variance of special use permits required. And that's the construction of 1, 2, or 3 family residences, or their construction of accessory structures. And then you don't have to go to the county if you're the partitioning of a parcel into one or more parcels, or the reconfiguration of existing parcel or combination of separate parcels into one or more. So I thought that was interesting because we just went through that. That's about it, really. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, they don't want things to come to the county that aren't really necessary to go there. That was just like reminding everybody of the things that do need to go there. That was it. So we need a motion for,
That makes sense.
I'm not making a motion.
okay.
I just wanted to piggyback on something that you had read from the county planning board.
Yep.
As well as a reminder that we as a town board had brought up last October, November, somewhere around there. And it had to do with your training, to make sure that we emphasize that both boards, the please make sure that all members get their training. And when you look at it right now, we're already a third of the way through 2019. So don't be like students in school and wait till the last minute to try and find some training. But you guys have to submit to the county planning board, and we've requested, it's in our laws, that we receive copies as well by the end of December of everybody and their training that they have gone through. And I noticed like on your minutes here that you had back here, April 24th and 29th, there's 2 more trainings coming up then. I'm just saying, when you got the time, get them out of the way. That's all I'm asking for.
Well, the May 29th is in Albion, and that's what
That's what
most of us go
do.
for.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And it doesn't cost you anything that way either.
That's the best price right there.
Town board's welcome there, I think.
We've got ours. If you want to go with me next Wednesday, you're welcome.
I was there last Wednesday and went through one training session.
Okay. Need a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.